Joining us now, I have research analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Janatan Sayeh, and also former U.S. Air Force Assistant Vice Chief of Staff, retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton, who is also NewsNation senior national security contributor. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you as well. General Newton, let me just start with you. This is the most significant escalation between the United States and Iran that we have seen in decades. The Ayatollah is dead. What's your current assessment on the operation and what next objectives are?
Well, it's certainly the most complex and bold campaign I've seen. We have to think, and we've been talking a lot about air, but this is air, sea-based, cyber, and other elements of capabilities. It's the first time the United States and Israel has conducted a joint sustained military campaign. I think in terms of 24 hours, Markey, we've gone after leadership. We've gone after Iranian retaliatory capabilities and so forth. I think what you're going to see in the next, I think in terms of the third tranche of 24 hours, we're well into that. We're going to be relentlessly going after Iran's retaliatory capabilities, specifically ballistic missiles, drones, other elements of their warfare to endanger not only U.S. forces, Israel, but now our Gulf Arab allies. Every one of the nations of the Gulf Arab friends and allies of the United States have been touched by this. And so this is broadening, and you're going to see more of this. Final point is also we'll be very focused on, as a planner, leadership, almost as if next man up, what we saw during the global war on terror leading up to the takedown of bin Laden. And so very complex, but again, we're very early in the game. I appreciate the president saying that this is not a matter of days, preparing the American people for weeks.
Jonathan, forget the strategy, the intel, the politics for just a moment. You were born and raised in Tehran. What does this moment mean for you and your family personally right now?
It is truly a historic moment, both as an American and as a person with Iranian background. Talking to folks on the ground, this is the wave of pro-American sentiment across the nation of Iran has really been unprecedented. I think the president's remarks really spoke to the Iranian people. And I think the final few minutes of the initial 8-minute speech was very clear that although the United States is there to facilitate a transition, it is not really up to the U.S. to finish the job. That comes to the Iranian people. So ensuring that that responsibility is really switched on the masses of Iranians, that is very crucial, because we need to really figure out and actually how we can mobilize the masses. And that's something the opposition has been leading by the Crown Prince. So it is truly a historic moment. I think once Washington is able to ensure that there is a government in Tehran that is, one, representative of Iranian national interest, is legitimate by Iranians, and can act as an ally of the United States, would be a historic achievement for the U.S. And of course, we've been talking about the Abraham Accords, but really what would be the major achievement is if we were to pave the way for the Cyrus Accords. Normalization between Iran and Israel would be really a historic win for any U.S. administration, and the president was the only one that actually pursued this. So we have to wait and see in the upcoming weeks how the masses of Iranians are going to take to the streets once the major bombing campaign is over.
And Jonathan, I know you called the Ayatollah's death a beginning, not yet an end, adding that this isn't a one-man regime like a Gaddafi or a Saddam. General, let me ask you, just to piggyback off that, when Jonathan is talking about the masses mobilizing in this moment to truly achieve a toppled regime, General, what does that look like? What do the people there on the ground need to do to actually see that come to fruition?
I think, and underscore Jonathan's points, this is where the United States, along with Israel, needs to continue the sustained engagement that we're seeing play out here. There's going to be other challenges, I'm sure, will come that we're not aware of, but from a strategic standpoint, continue the relentless attack against Iranian, those that have been doing harm to the Iranian 93 million people for decades. And you continue to do that. You continue to go after the Islamic Republican Guard, specifically their leadership. You continue to now go after the sustainment of the regime, their command and control, their leadership, their ability to wage war against not only the Iranian people, but also against their allies, not their allies, but their neighbors there in the region, certainly U.S. positions as well. So this is going to be a meticulous focus. It's to support the Iranian people. It's to provide the conditions for them to create that uprising that they've been waiting for years to really reclaim their own country. Final point is that's focused on Iran, but this is also what President Trump's aim here is, to really change the historical context of the Mideast for the good that we've been waiting for decades, ever since the Islamic Revolution in March of 1979. So this entails not only focused on, certainly on the Iranian people, people, but the entire Mideast, led by the United States, but with the cooperative now support of the Gulf Arab nations as well, in concert with Israel.
Robert, let me bring you back in. You're live for us in Tel Aviv. We know that Britain, France, and Germany have all agreed to back the U.S. with defensive action against Iran. How are other foreign governments responding to this around the world?
Yeah, I mean, without question, it's a mixed bag here, Mark. I mean, when it comes to Britain, Germany, and France, I mean, there is an emphasis being placed on defense, defending their allies in the region as well as the U.S. But you think about countries such as Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, Saudi Arabia. Some of these countries here, Marky, in the Middle East have had to down hundreds of drones, hundreds of missiles, particularly the UAE, which has cultivated a reputation over the last 2 decades of being one of the safest places in the world. This is so outside the norm for so many of these countries that are here in the region and are trying to defend their sovereignty, trying to defend their airspace at all costs. That's why you're starting to see more members of the international community coming in. There is still a push from some. We heard from France's diplomats here today and the EU as well, hoping to push this back to the diplomatic tables. If you listen to the sentiment coming from Iran's leadership, those that still exist there, look at the National Security Council chief, who said today there will be no negotiations with the U.S. At this juncture, from what is publicly in the eye, there does not seem to be a diplomatic track in sight here. It seems as though that it is going to be full speed ahead from the American and Israeli forces to continue pushing the pressure on Iran. And if it continues on, you could see more and more involvement from allies. Marky.
Tom, let me give you the last word, just because you're live at the White House, and in 45 minutes, we're expecting a press conference from War Secretary Pete Hegseth, just on the latest on this operation. Any idea what we're about to learn from him?
I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about, further details about this whole military operation. We're continuing to hear the Trump administration voice a lot of confidence about how things have gone so far. As we heard President Trump say, hundreds of targets across Iran were hit, including 9 different naval ships and the Iranian naval building. So I'm sure we're going to get some more details as far as the success. We may hear more, though, about, sort of the digging in aspect of all this. Like we heard in President Trump's speech, this is not going to be a matter of days. He estimates the campaign to go on for at least several more weeks. And I would, I'm sure that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will bring up the deaths of the American service members, obviously on the minds of a lot of Americans right now. This is not an easy campaign that we are engaged in right now, and it's going to be something that, we're digging in for, like I said, for several more weeks at least, Marky.
Yeah, we'll see if we learn identities this morning and also any more that they can tell us about the friendly fire aircraft that went down this morning in Kuwait. I got to end it there, but Lieutenant General Richard Newton, Janatan Sayeh, Robert Sherman, Tom Dempsey, gentlemen, to all of you, I say thank you. Appreciate your time.